In their current commercial, Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins say you will not be replaced by people who you will not be replaced by AI. You will be replaced by people who know how to use AI. So I was just in a lunch with a friend who's about 10 years younger than me, um, asking me what I think about or how I think AI applies to his business. And I have a couple thoughts I would like to share. Um, First of all, how to not use AI. And second, how to leverage AI to do what you should be doing anyway. So, using AI poorly, in my mind, is to have AI give answers to questions that you don't know. The thing that separates an expert in a field from a practitioner of that field is experts know the limitations of their experience. Experts know the limitations of their knowledge. Amateurs, novices, think they know more than they know, or they think that they're in a fake it till you make it kind of mode. They think that if they keep working in the field, they will just accumulate the information that they need. And they assume that that's good enough to get them. Hi, Joshua. Um, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Hey, I can hear you. I don't want
Okay.
to interrupt.
All right. Awesome. Welcome. So I had started a little rant, and see if anyone shows up. I just was in lunch with a guy whose question was, "What do I need to know about AI?" Is the short version of his question. Um, and I'm trying to record my thought while I have it in my head of how to use AI poorly, and how to use AI to reinforce what you should be doing anyway. Um, Using it poorly in my mind. And so since you're here, Josh, I'll give you a chance as soon as I say this to give me your thought on the idea. If you're using AI to compensate for a lack of your own knowledge, that's using it poorly. If you don't know the answer to a question and you're asking an AI model to give you an answer and then treating that as your answer, that's using AI poorly. Does that concept make sense?
Yep. Yeah, it does. I track.
Okay. So I think, especially in our world, there's a lot of people who um, they're seeing someone ask a question, they're copying that question because we're all working in text mode. They're copying the question, they're pasting it into a GPT, and they're getting an answer, and they're pasting the answer back as if it is their answer. And those of us who actually know what's happening in the backside of the platform can immediately recognize where the mistakes are in that answer. And so it's not showing knowledge, it's not providing value, it's demonstrating a lack of knowledge and a lack of integrity. In my mind, that's using AI poorly. Using AI in the exact same way, but using it well would be, I see the answer to a question, I see a question, I have the concept, I paste the question into a GPT, I read the answer, but I know enough to know when it's not totally accurate. I don't copy and paste the answer that GPT gives me. I paraphrase or tailor the answer and I edit it to make it correct. And I give my own answer instead of copying whatever GPT gave me. That's doing the same task, but you leveraging AI to help you frame a complete answer instead of doing just whatever Keith comes up with off the top of his shaved head. Which sometimes I'm guilty of the opposite, which is I give the quick answer that's off the top of my head, and sometimes it's not a complete answer. Where the GPT answer is often a much more complete answer as long as it's correct. That might be a complete thought. What do you think, Josh?
I definitely run into that. So, the biggest thing for me is take useful data in the first place and use the AI in order to sort it and to put it in presentable method. So, case in point, I just finished wrapping up a set of proposals for CPC, like cost per click, and ROAS for a lawyer, and they've got crazy cost per clicks. And I just pulled a bunch of data from Ahrefs, from GA4, and a bunch of other hard data, like data that I know is relevant to this client, and to simplify all that information and do all the math calculations for a bunch of hypothetical situations of how to allocate that spend. AI and I use the Gemini deep research. It works better for the Google Ads side. GPT is better for other things, and Claude's better for other things. You just got to know the tool you're going to utilize. But that was probably one of the easiest ways to utilize all that information, because then it created all my tables. I asked it to create a couple of visuals, but I was very specific in the prompting and the results that I wanted it to give me.
Mm-hmm.
But because I gave it good data in the first place, I limited it from kind of hypothetical situations or
hallucinating.
hallucinating.
Yep. Joshua, I think that is the perfect example of the counterpoint to using it poorly is to let it just take whatever it gives you and assume that that's a correct answer. Using it well is leveraging it to do the data analytics that the field well enough to know if you're getting a answer that's within the realm of the reasonable. And yet letting it do all the mechanics for you rather than you having to do the hard math. That, I think, is perfectly describing what I think is the best way to use AI.
Yeah, and here's like one metric, or maybe like barometer to figure out where you should sit and if you should use it or not. I like to ask myself, could I do this task without AI? If I can, and if I understand how it should work, then I will use it for it. Because, and this is an example that a bunch of people will understand, even though they don't personally experience it. For a developer, because this has been tossed around a bunch, there are developer tools like Cursor and others, and GitHub has integrations like this in order to help you write code. The issue is, if you or I just went in there to go and write a bunch of code, we have no idea what it's writing. It may look good on the front end, but that's not going to be a client deliverable. It may be good to like a low-level marketer, DM, even someone that's doing like SEO and PPC or just design, could go in there and design something and say, like, here's an example of what I want. It's not going to be the finished project. It's going to go through a developer. So it'll speed up time, but the developer could do it on his or her own outside of using the agent, the AI, but it'll speed it up a lot.
Right.
And so in this case, for my PPC stuff or SEO stuff, organic research stuff, like these are tasks that I've been doing for 4 or 5 years by this point. So I know step by step, I've got documentation of all the steps that I personally take in order to create X results. So sometimes I even have the ability to say, hey, the result should look like this. Here's the input. Fill in, doing the dirty work.
Mhm.
and then it'll do all that stuff, all the grunt work, but I
Mhm.
can check it too. So I'll
Mhm.
go, I'll read through the whole thing, highly suggest it, because if you're gonna send it to a client, you don't want it to say something that you didn't write or you don't mean to give it,
Yeah.
to the person, but that it just makes our lives a bit easier, but you do have to understand what it's doing, because
Yeah.
otherwise you can't check it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's the at a very micro level, there's nothing wrong with using a calculator to do basic math. But if you do a division problem in the reverse order, you get a totally different answer. Knowing that your answer should be within this range allows you to realize you made the mistake of putting the numbers in the wrong order. Um, with GPT, with any of the AIs, it's so easy to go to the opposite extreme of that of or take that problem to the extreme. And if you don't know what answer you're expecting, I think what you just described is perfect. If you can show it exactly what the output should look like, then it can do the grunt, the dirty work, the nug work, whatever phrase works for you, of all the mechanics of step by step by step by step, doing all the routine to give you an output. But you have to know that it's giving you an output that's in the right in the range of the reasonable. Um, and know enough about the problem in order to be able to detect where in the process it just made something up, it created a fact that isn't true. um, and if you don't know the field, the industry, then if it does that, you won't know. I think you use a perfect example for the two of us not knowing code. um, we can ask it to generate CSS, and we'll never know if it works. We won't know why it works, and if it doesn't work, we'll not know why it didn't work. Um, I think that's I think the perfect. I appreciate you reinforcing my thought process there.
Oh, yes, I'm here to reinforce, biases that you already have.
I'm so glad.
Y
Um, because because I don't have GPT to do that for me. I think ChatGPT is that's my biggest problem with ChatGPT, right? In fact, the conversation I just had, um, my friend Jacob said, the one thing that he's trained his ChatGPT is tell me I'm wrong once in a while. He's deliberately prompted, included in his prompting to his GPT. Make sure you don't always tell me I'm right, because I know I'm not always right. I need to know when I'm going off the rails. I think that's a valuable um, feedback loop that all of us need um, in our lives somewhere. And too many people are taking whatever their AI model of choice is. They're taking whatever output comes from it, and they're just treating it as if it's correct, and they don't know what enough to know whether it's correct or not.
Yep, yeah, that's
Awesome.
the case. Hey, well,
Okay.
thanks for letting me jump in here on the rant. I saw the notification. It's like, "You've jumped
Yeah.
in enough of my calls, I better repay the honor."
Well, thank you.